Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 31 of the Stire Sound. And as you can see, we got a full house today. We got a lot to talk about. Daytona Supercross just wrapped up. Eli Tomac, eighth win at Daytona, surpassing NASCAR legend Richard Petty for most wins at the track in the premier event. We also have a lot of MXGP preview to do, and that's going to be a big chunk of this episode. There's so many changes from a year ago that we have to cover, and we will be tying things together before the first round of the season in Argentina this weekend. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Episode number 31. Of course, you can find us Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube. If you're watching, you probably know where to find us. Be sure to share the word. Be sure to like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Thank you for your support. Joining me as always, my usual co-host, fresh off a weekend in Daytona with the Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot WMR KTM team, now gearing up for the first East Coast Triple Crown round of the year in Indianapolis. Jack Noel, what's up, man? How was Daytona for you, and how are we feeling going into Indy?
Yeah, no, it was good. Like the team, like wise, like obviously, like we're kind of like under the weather in a sense, like with Gage being hurt and Driscoll like kind of dealing with some stuff. So we're down to two guys. Good thing we have a big roster. It could be like PRMX and be kind of screwed right now. If it were like on the West Coast, but no, with Marcus and Jace, they did good. Jace is also like dealing with like a nagging thing with his thumb, like after his crash in Arlington. But yeah, no, it was good otherwise. I mean, Marcus rode the best I think I've ever seen him ride, to be honest with you. So that was cool. And, we had a lot of people in Daytona. It's like our home race. So just the pits were crazy in our side, and it was just a lot of people. And, yeah, no, it was cool. I definitely wasn't mad about how the weekend went. Definitely wish we would have been in the main event, but the guys rode well. I think there's just some things that, like, we talked about yesterday in our meeting, just why are we not doing what we need to be doing to be making main events? So I think if we can take the positives from this past weekend and bring it into Indy and make a couple changes, I think we'll be in a good spot and we'll have a huge advantage going into Indy being in the B group. So if you know how that track breaks down, that track's pretty gnarly once it gets to the A practice. So hopefully we can get a time in early and yeah, set it free.
Joining us also, he is a semi-regular to the show. He's been on here a few times as co-host, helping us talk about the MXGP season. Of course, he's going to share his thoughts on Daytona as well. From CultMoto, Edward Heather, welcome back to the show, man. Thanks for joining us. I was talking to you a little bit before we started. I'm really excited. This is probably the most excited and amped up I've ever been to watch an MXGP season. So how are you feeling?
Thanks for having me on again, boys. And yeah, I think this is probably the most anticipated MXGP season in the last God knows how long, to be honest. It's everyone's hyped up about it. Even sort of more casual motocross fans seem to be buying into it, which I think the GPs need a little bit. I think it's quite when someone like Jeffrey's injured or Tim's not there, it lacks that sort of star power. But now this year we're looking heavy. I think it's 8 world champions in the premier class. The 250 class has taken a little bit of a hit, but I'm optimistic that it's going to be a good year of racing, and hopefully we see some varying results and a strong field. Not it plateaued quite a bit quite quickly after Tim went out last year, but no, good to get on and talk about Daytona as well because that was crazy as well, boys. It's racing's popping off at the minute.
AMA Supercross right now is on fire, on another level at the moment, but I'm actually going to change a little bit of the order I sent you guys. We're going to address the elephant in the room first, and I'm going to just briefly talk about things before we move on. Of course, if you've lived under a rock, you might not know what's happening, but Sunday, some sleuths on the Vital MX forums discovered that Jason Anderson was arrested in December for battery. And I want to go on a diatribe about this, but also I'm still trying to find my footing in the media game. I don't want to say too much too soon, but what I will say is that the police report that was also attached to that thread was pretty damning. And one of the lowest things you can do as a man is hit another woman. Now, we don't know all of the details necessarily, but what we saw is not good. I hope that Jason, the victim, everybody involved can get help, can get through this, some kind of counseling, some kind of thing. Personally, I feel like Jason should have been suspended by the AMA. I'm not sure for how long, maybe for the rest of the season. I also think that if he was suspended, that if he went through counseling, some kind of anger management, some kind of course thing. I'm not big into legal stuff, so I don't know the proper actions, but I believe that if he did go through proper counseling and proper training, that he should be reinstated. But I'm a bit surprised that we have as serious of arrests and allegations as this, that we don't have a suspension from it. But it's disappointing. You don't want this from anybody, let alone a champion and a guy that realistically I'm sure a lot of people look up to. Jason has a really strong fan base, I think, and I really feel bad for those people because they've been supporting him for however long, buying t-shirts, buying Team Fried merch, maybe even have jerseys, and now they really don't know what to do. I've talked to a couple people I know in snowboard, of course. I'm big in the Pulp MX Discord, and the one guy's like, "Man, I've been a fan for 12 years. Like, this is a rough feeling." And then another one of my close friends is an Anderson fan. He's like, "What am I going to do?" He's like, "I have a bunch of Team Fried merch." He's like, "Do I still wear it? Do I just wear it around the house and not out in public?" Like, he's a little bit confused on what to do, and I think a lot of people were confused, and it's a rough situation. I think that the NFL and NBA and some of these other sports might not do enough in some of these cases. Obviously, I don't know all of the details, but the details I saw are not good. I think Jason should be suspended at the least instead of being able to step away on his own terms, seemingly. I'm sure the Suzuki team, the HEP organization, Pipes Motorsports Group, whatever you call them, I'm sure they're investigating things. I'm a little surprised that he's still with the team, honestly. I don't know. Once again, if they're able to resolve things, if they're able to come to some kind of charges being dropped case, then I can see him definitely being back with the team. But it's disappointing because we don't usually talk about arrests a lot, and to have something of this magnitude, like I said, I mean, there is absolutely no place in the world. It doesn't matter what situation you put yourself in, but putting hands on a woman and being violent with a woman is never the answer in this case. And it's sad that we have to talk about something like this, but at the end of the day, we also need to address it. And I feel like the AMA needs to do better in some cases of addressing these crimes because there is another racer in the 450 class, a privateer. I have chosen the last few years not to give him any coverage because of a previous arrest. I don't know if it was resolved or not. There's a guy out there, number 118, who has a previous battery arrest as well, and I don't think he was ever suspended necessarily. But hopefully we can do better as a sport. I hope that Jason is able to get help and to turn things around in his point of view. I hope the victim is able to get help and to be okay from all of this. It sucks for the fans, not only of Anderson, but of the sport, because it's kind of a black eye whenever you do this. We're not used to this. I feel like considered, especially over here, a family-friendly sport. Look at the track. How many people do you see families with children? I mean, even you look at Jason's teammate, Ken Roxon, I think of one of the biggest family men in the sport, a husband, a father of two, and we see this going on. It's hard to say what all of the right steps are, but it's very disappointing. It's disappointing for Jason's behavior once again, like I said. That's a former champion. That's somebody we should rely on as an ambassador of the sport. And look at all of his sponsors. I'm sure Twisted Tea, Monster Energy, Progressive Insurance, Cycle Gear, all of these sponsors that support the HEP team, I'm sure they're evaluating things as well and thinking, wait a second, we don't really, do we want a guy who's wrapped up in all of these legal troubles to represent our brands? It's a slippery slope, but I just wanted to cover it and say that if these things are happening, and as I said, the police document did not look good, and it's, I condemn it. It's not something we need in our sport and around our sport, and we'll move on for now. I don't know if you
Here,
guys want to look at.
I do want to touch on that just for a sec. So just to kind
Okay,
of
you're good.
clear the air a little bit, I do think it's tough for the AMA because it's like a case that was dropped, like from like what I've seen. Like so like his wife like dropped the charges, so like it's not like it's a pending case. It happened, which obviously like it shit happens, like it's very personal. I don't really like know much about him or whatever, but um for like an AMA standpoint, like they can't really do anything because the case was dropped. Like there's like
Gotcha.
video camera footage of it, so like it's a weird scenario. Like I understand like him, he did the right thing by like walking away. But I'm wonder if we'll ever see him race again. To be honest with you, like that's my thing is like I wonder if he'll ever race again. I doubt it. Um, but like if he does, like it's the thing of like what do sponsors say? What sponsors stick with
Yeah.
them? Like, I mean, you look at Monster, like I think Monster is one of those companies that like stick behind guys a lot. Like you saw the whole thing with like Tiger Woods. I mean, obviously it's not like I don't think it was like I mean I think it might have even been something like that. But like Monster stuff behind Tiger, like obviously it's those things that you don't really condemn. Like I obviously don't support like what happened, or like I don't want to defend the guy for like what he did. But at the end of the day, I look at it too like, well, the charges aren't there anymore. It's not like he's under like a court case or like under house arrest or something like that. But yeah, no, it's weird. It's a weird scenario. I don't think we'll ever see him race again. Though, being that he's 32, 33 years old, like it's probably the dust has settled for Anderson, I think. But it's a shitty way to go out because I think if he could have finished this year and maybe got a podium, it'd have been cool. And then defended his World Supercross title, which would have been cool to see. But it's gonna be, I mean, obviously now I don't think that's gonna happen. So, but yeah, it's all about what sponsors say. So that's in my opinion, that's like what the big thing is, and I don't think the sponsors are gonna be very stoked about that.
I don't believe so either. And it's sad when you see a former champion tarnish their reputation. I mean, obviously, you think of the success he's had on the bike, and now that's going to be outweighed because anybody, if they think of Jason Anderson now, they are going to think of this arrest and the certain things that come with that. Moving on to better things, we're going to have a fun show, but we wanted to get that out of the way, clear the air. Now we got good vibes. Daytona Supercross. I don't need to say much more other than ET3 does it again. Eli Tomac, who is the best at Daytona Supercross ever, goes out there, wins again. Hunter Lawrence was fastest to start today. Hunter Lawrence won his heat race. Eli won his heat race. But in the main event time, you see the top four start nose to tail exactly in the order from Arlington. Kenny out front, then Hunter, then Webb, then Tomac, but you could tell early Eli Tomac was just on a different level. I know he talked about in Arlington. He said that he waited too long during the media scrum. He said he waited for the battles to happen. He was watching things unfold up front and waited too long to really charge. And Daytona, you could tell he had the urgency immediately, went after Cooper Webb, went after the top three guys, got in the lead, rode away. Hunter Lawrence was fairly close. He was right there hanging in. But now, once again, Tomac, fourth win of the year, fourth win in 8 main events, and he also gets the point lead back to one. So it keeps swinging. Same way as it was after Seattle. Hunter Lawrence still has the red plate, but Eli only one behind. Jack, you were there. I don't know how much you got to see of the action, but Eli Tomac, another textbook classic Daytona performance. He did chip his tooth. He did have one hiccup, and that was after things with the whole trophy breaking, but this championship just continues to get better and better. And I will say as well, I think Cooper Webb and Ken Roczen are starting to be in the danger zone. They're 20 back. And I think if you fall out of that range of being within a race of the championship lead, you might be done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be a two-man race for the rest of the series. And if those guys can stay healthy, I think Eli and Hunter will be going back and forth. I think Hunter's so consistent to where like it's going to be really hard to kind of gain a lot on Hunter, like especially if you can click off 3 or 4 more wins. Um, but like Tomac's doing what he has to do, like we saw in Arlington. Like he's not if he's not on his A game, which I think he was pretty good on Arlington still. He's right behind Hunter, so. It's going to be, I think Cooper Webb and Roxon can potentially steal some wins like here and there and like kind of get in between and kind of maybe make it tough for those guys. But I think those two are the clear favorites. And I think Hunter did exactly what he needed to do after, getting passed by Ken Roxon and Tomac. And getting, I think Hunter does his best work in the last 6 minutes of a race. Um, and I think that's kind of going to be the key to his championship this year to stay alive is really be that guy in the last half of the race where he can, be strong if a guy like Tomac isn't, you know, strong for the whole 20 minutes, right? So, but I do think if he can pick up his like early race intensity, I think that would be the key for Hunter to win this thing. Because I do think Tomac's kind of got in the driver's seat right now after winning the Daytona. Although he doesn't have the red plate yet, but I know we're going to like Indy, a track that like Kenny can be good at, and so I'm excited to see how Indy goes. And it's a triple crown, so like it's going to be tough for Hunter. I think if he's not up front early, like I think this Triple Crown could also waver like how things end up like in the long run. But like Tomac's also had bad luck at Triple Crowns, to be honest with you. So it could be very interesting. Like this could be a total shakeup of how things go in the future. I think this is a very, I mean, every round is important, but like it seems like each round gets more and more important as we go on.
This is only the second of three Triple Crowns as well. So that could be a pivotal moment. You look at Tomac, like you said, in Houston, he goes down the one moto and it really shakes things up. Houston was a crazy Triple Crown. Don't know if we'll see that level of craziness in Indianapolis. But Ed, of course, I'm sure you were watching over in the UK. Eli Tomac, another victory. But as Jack said, as I kind of hinted at, it seems like this championship is really becoming a two-horse race. It was a four-man fight, even a five-man fight. I'll say Chase Sexton was in there. He was clinging on for a little bit, but it went to a four-man fight at Daytona. Now it seems like with those two guys 20 points behind, it looks like it's going to be Hunter versus Eli, man versus man for the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Eli and Hunter just keep hitting their marks. Eli, outside of the Glendale result, has been sort of picture perfect, and Hunter's been off the podium twice in every round. So you could kind of paint the picture a little bit different. If Eli was turned his 12th into a fifth in Glendale, then we'd kind of be scratching our heads at more of a boring picture or title picture. But this weekend, I'd say is maybe the last opportunity for Kenny and Cooper to try and mix it back in there and hopefully have a point swing. Like we said, three starts, three gate drops. The track's going to be awful by the last main event as well, and I'm sure the second one's not going to look too good either. But yeah, coming into the season, everyone kind of put Chase, then Cooper, then Eli, and then you probably had Hunter fourth, and then it's the third and fourth pick for most people that are sort of steering the ship. But it's making the waking up at staying up till midnight and staying up till about 3 in the morning worth it so far because the racing has been awesome. But yeah, Eli at Daytona is kind of inevitable, isn't it? So, which I kind of think Hunter's ride's even more impressive because he was that good and kept him that honest. And what was the margin at the end? Like 1.5 seconds, fastest laps from the last two laps. Like Hunter's the real deal. He's really, really good.
Hunter Lawrence's fastest lap on the last lap of the race was very impressive because that track was starting to get chewed up a little bit. But still a long way to go. This is technically the halfway mark of the season. Weird to say because we have 17 rounds. We don't have a concrete halfway mark, but this weekend is the midpoint of the season. Plus, we have an off weekend after Indianapolis. So if one of those two guys can get a win this weekend, build momentum into that off week, and then carry it into the rest of the season into Birmingham and so on. Then you move over to the 250 class. I remarked when we recorded our Trans World Motocross recap show that Kawasaki at the top of the board. I don't think it's any coincidence adding the Morgan Wallen sponsorship for the weekend that they went to the top of the charts. But Seth Hammaker getting the job done in Daytona, a great performance from him. Drew Adams had a great day until the ending. Fastest qualifier for Drew, a heat race win. Of course, he had an SMX Next victory at Daytona a couple years ago. Goes down in the main event, unfortunately. Injures his thumb. Not sure 100% if he's racing or not this weekend. But Seth, a great performance from him. Joe Shimoda ran second for most of the main event, but went down in the sand. That allowed Cole Davies and Pierce Brown to move ahead of him. Pierce Brown still in the championship lead by 1 or 2 points over Hammaker. It's still a very close race, obviously, very early on. You got five guys really close together. But Hammaker now with a victory. Fantastic performance from him. Cole Davies was ripping once again. He hasn't got a win yet, but he's still been, I think, the most impressive guy in terms of speed and pace. I think this could be a four-man race, honestly, through the rest of the season. I think Daxton Bennett getting a P5 was solid, considering that it seems like he goes out, he has these podiums right away, but sometimes it feels like he starts to falter immediately, whether he gets hurt or banged up or just has a bad round. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a championship contender, but at the same time, with this many elite level guys, if he can stay consistently in that fight or in that range, maybe he could play spoiler at certain parts. But it could be a four-man race. Joe Shimoda loses valuable points. That's 4 points he threw away from going down. He could be 1 point behind the red plate, and now I think he's five behind the red plate because he went down late in that sand section. But Jack, this 250 class, although it's only two rounds, it's way more exciting than anything the West Coast has really provided for us. Obviously, we had the great race with Levi and Hayden in Seattle, but in terms of the championship, it's really been over on the West for a long time. Now with a brand new series, it seems like it's going to be several people competing for the championship. And Seth Hammaker made the statement at Daytona. He said, "You know what? I might have come up short last year," and he was one RJ Hampshire poor decision away from a championship then. So he's definitely hungry and motivated for this year. But hopefully we keep getting some exciting championship fights here in the East class.
Yeah, no, I think the East Coast is stacking up to be really, really good. I think there's definitely, now that Drew's out, I think Drew, such a bummer too, because I don't think he's going to be racing this weekend. I saw him after the race in Daytona, and he had a cast on his thumb, so that's such a bummer. I don't know when his return will be, but I don't think he'll be racing this weekend. Um, but otherwise, the four guys I think that we were talking about, Shimoda, Hammaker, Davies, and Pierce Brown, I think those guys are definitely the guys I think that we can all look at for the title. And then you throw in a name like Dax Bennick, Nate Thrasher, and a couple other guys too that I think can mix it up in the top five, and kind of throw a wrench into somebody's plans. But I think those four guys are definitely cementing themselves as the title favorites. Such a bummer for Shimoda though. I think Shimoda was having a great ride. I don't think he would have won necessarily, but I think he would have held off Davies and Pierce Brown. I really do. Um, he just had some cool like different lines that those guys weren't really picking up on, and I think that was kind of the difference for him. But I think Shimoda will be good. I think he's going to get better every week, and I think Shimoda still in my head is the title favorite. Like to win the whole thing. I think Davies and Pierce Brown, even Hammaker. I think Hammaker's like, you look at like his ride in his day, qualified ninth, got a third in his heat race. You're not really thinking about Hammaker to win the thing, and goes out there and pulls a whole shot and has a great race. Like that's the kind of ride you look at, and you're like, that's a championship style ride. Like I think after last year and all the shit he had to go through, it's really really tough to be like to count him out. So um, yeah, no, it's going to be good. I think the East West is going to be like the big breakers. I think is going to be like kind of where these guys decide their titles, because you throw Deegan and Levi out there with like McAdoo and Ryder D and even like a Mosman and an Anstey. Like those guys are no slouches. Um, I don't think they're on the level of Deegan and Levi, but they could definitely get in there and mix some things up. I think like you said, the West is over, so the East being really really tight at the top is definitely interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to see how Indy goes. Triple Crowns in the 2D class are always freaking hectic, so I'm looking forward to it, and I know it's going to be an interesting race for like everybody, because like I'm sure the LCQ is going to be stacked during the day, like just with guys that you don't expect to be in it, like that are kind of on the bubble of outside that top 10 that aren't like cemented great qualifiers necessarily. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to watch. I think it'll be good race. I think whoever can be the most consistent on Saturday in Indy will be the guy who leads with the red plate. To be completely fair with you.
Moving over to you now, as Jack mentioned, Triple Crown this weekend could throw a wrench into things, even though it's still very early on. Plus, the next race for the East Coast is that East-West showdown, the first one of the year in Birmingham. They have a lot of wild formats and big swings that could be coming up in the next couple weeks. From your point of view, do you have any clear favorites for the title? Of course, we picked Joe Shimoda to be the champion, but do you have any favorites now watching the first couple races of the year and seeing the fluctuation at least so far?
I think Cole's the best or fastest rider, and his starts so far have been his biggest Achilles heel, similar to Deegan, really. Whereas Deegan's had the experience now, got the experience in Supercross where he can kind of dice for a pack and get up into a podium. Where I think, well, Cole did have a poor start in Daytona and got on a podium, but you get what I mean. His starts are limiting him. I think if he started in the top three, some races he'll just run away. We saw it a
Yeah.
little bit last year. I forgot the Triple Crown where he won two of them and crashed out the last one. But I think Cole's the best rider, but that doesn't necessarily win you championships. And similar to Jet and Hayden, where they didn't win their first two Supercross seasons, I think Cole might go under that bracket again, tick off more boxes this year, learn a little bit more. But for me, in between Seth and Joe, it's really hard because when you've got evidence there of Seth's career where it's always been a bump in the road and something's always happened, and the qualifying crash in Daytona, so lucky he didn't destroy himself. Like that could have been easily he's out of it, and we're not really looking at this championship as positively. But I think I'm going to lean towards Joe as well. If you take the second place from the opening round and the points he gave up from his crash, I mean that's like what 7 points between then. He could have had extra on his tally. But yeah, I think Joe, the SMX winning against Hayden, going through that the stupidity of whatever that race was. Like he's never going to have to deal with anything like that again. So I think that's going to help him, and he just needs to get a win soon. Because if you let someone like Cole Davies get a win and get some momentum, then similar, it's like a Deegan-esque. I think once he gets an inch, or you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. But Pierce, for me, obviously he's got the red plate, and he's way above my expectations this year. I'll be perfectly honest. I thought he'd struggle a lot more, but I think he's more of like a Max Anstey character this year. I feel like his results are gonna just slowly drop off, still being a threat for a win if he gets a good start and he rides consistent laps. But I just think it's a little bit early for him to win a title. Like before this year, his last podium in indoors was in 2022. Like I just don't. In my head, it doesn't all piece together, but I could be completely wrong. He's looked really good so far, and I love a three-digit number with the red plate. I just think it looks cool, so I kind of supporting him. But for me, ride red. I think Joe Shimoda's at the moment looking like he's the most complete for the title, even though he got a bit tired in Daytona.
There's still a lot to unpack and uncover from the 250 class, still very wide open. And this weekend, first Triple Crown of the year, it could change things up. Now moving into probably the longest portion of our episode this week, MXGP Preview. And it's one of those things, it's like, where do I even start? And I
Yeah.
think the first place I'm going to start personally is talking about the defending world champions who are back to try to reclaim their thrones. Next, after the world champions, I will try to unpack all of the silly season moves, which might take 10 minutes, as many moves as there were. If you thought the US offseason was crazy, the MXGP season, I think, topped it. If you're new to MXGP, we're going to try to help you through the changes and through some of these characters because there are so many to pick from. But the defending champions, Romain Febvre, back with a Kawasaki racing team, of course, fresh off his second world championship, 10 years apart between world title wins. Cowie's first Premier Class title win since I think the late 90s. It was a really good year for Febvre. I think a lot of us would have expected him to get a few wins, to get a lot of podiums. But of course, when Gajser went out, it really shifted the championship fight around. And Febvre used his veteran consistency and all of that knowledge to work his way to a second world title. And also for the Ice One team as well. If any F1 fans watch it, of course, Kimi Räikkönen owning that team. So his organization has an MXGP World Championship. Then in MX2, everybody thought going into the year that Kai de Wolf would go back to back as world champion. That did not happen. Instead, it was Simon Langenfelder. Of course, last year he was with the Red Bull KTM Ducati racing team. He moves over to the Red Bull KTM factory racing team. I know that's a little confusing that there are two factory KTM teams over there. But Langenfelder, once again, another guy that I think would have been no surprise to get multiple wins, to be on the podium regularly, but it was a bit surprising, I think, that he won his world championship. It felt like when Jack and I started the show, we were just waiting for some kind of crack in the armor for Langenfelder and for DeWolf to get back in it, and it never really happened, and DeWolf tried desperately at the end, but it didn't work. Langenfelder coming into the year as a world champion, I would assume this is his final year in the MX2 class. I think he's been in the MX2 class since 2020, and I was a junior in high school in 2020. So I think he's almost done with that class. But the defending champions are back, ready for action. There are so many guys there. And of course, you're covering the MXGP series. You're at several of these rounds. Last year, you got to witness Febvre and Langenfelder's performances firsthand. What are the keys for those guys this year if they want to try to continue their success and keep that number one plate on their machines?
Well, for a man, I think the biggest benefit to him is the main competitors or the heavy hitters, Tim and Jeffrey, have obviously changed scenery. It's completely new for them, and that's only going to play in his favor. I believe he signed, or this will be his sixth season or sixth year with Kawasaki, so everything's quite similar. And it's well documented that the KX 450, especially in Europe, is better suited to the Frenchman opposed to his teammates. Really, they got that dialed in, and in one hand, I think a negative to him could almost be I don't think he ever really believed he could get a second world championship. I think 2025 when the injury started happening and 16 podiums and 20 rounds. I mean, his consistency, everything's been there, and he kind of had to have that season fall in place for him. But I'm hoping that all these other changes are going to sort of motivate him to where he thinks he can pick up a third world title and defend it because yeah, it's like really hard to even bench race because if we're putting Jeffrey on a KTM and Tim on a Honda, personally for me, I don't think Roman's got anything in them on when they're all firing on 100%. But at the minute, they could all be so far off. It could be a sort of a replication of last year where Lucas and Roman are riding strong and it's them two out front. But I think the biggest thing for Roman is everything's the same. I don't think Tim and Jeffrey are gonna level up to begin with. So as long as he's continuing that consistency still winning a race. I think that's going to be an important aspect to still show that you can win a race, and even with the big boys there, and Jeffrey's got 100 and something GP wins, Tim's got over 50 GP wins. Like these guys are stacked with it. And then going into the Simon side of things, there's a lot of pressure on Simon to defend this title because out of the riders that are lining up this year, he is one of three that have ever won a Grand Prix. The second one to that is Liam Everts, and then the third one Sasha Coonan, and then it all drops off. And even the podium aspect, I think outside of them three, no one's had more than two podiums in that class. So it's definitely not stacked towards people are going to be all over him for a win. But yeah, again, I think for him, he shouldn't be off the podium realistically. I don't really see how he doesn't win this title. Like I couldn't suggest anything that he'd need to do apart from be there. Like he's kind of proven it. This should be quite a straightforward title, but as we all know, being massive motocross fans, it's never that straightforward, and something's always bound to happen. But um, you touched on with the changing over of teams. That could be a benefit to him. I know the Takali aspects and having the Coonans, they like having the two Coonan brothers, and kind of last year, kind of got a bit funny, but not really, nothing major. So maybe moving over, being the sole 250 guy with Andrea as a teammate might help him a little bit. But no, the 250 class is lacking. So Simon, I think the pressure's amped up a little bit on him, to be honest.
I agree with that statement as well. There are so many guys, and we're going to get to it in a minute. Jack, I'll mention about the championship contenders, but the two biggest threats, the two guys with the most experience, the most success, have changed scenery. Jeffrey Herlings, 2010, I believe, was when he turned pro. His entire professional career was with KTM Factory Racing. Tim Gajser, for over a decade with Honda. 2015, his MX2 world title was with Honda. Then he continues, wins four MXGP world titles. Of course, when it went from Garibaldi Honda to the factory Team Honda HRC program, two guys that have spent over a decade and spent basically or their entire career with the same team, the same bikes, the same colors, the same everything. For Jeffrey, even like same energy drink sponsors and gear brands. Now they're changing. Herlings goes over to Honda to fill the seat that Gajser vacated. Gajser goes over to Yamaha and now will be on a blue machine. Jack, these are seismic changes. Of course, we saw it over here in the United States with Eli Tomac going to KTM. That was one of those things that we would have never dreamed of before October or whenever we started hearing the rumors. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody before 2025 expected to see Jeffrey Herlings not on orange and Tim Geiser not on red.
Yeah, no, I think it's just kind of crazy to see Herlings not in a Red Bull lid, to be honest. I think that's kind of the craziest thing ever, to be completely fair with you, and not in like Alpine Star.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's honestly the biggest shocker, really. But no, I think like what Ed said, it's like very like Romaine's obviously the only really one that's like a title contender in mine, other than like Coonan, obviously, that is like stayed the same. Like nothing
Yeah.
changed. Like he's very like it's very level headed over there, it seems like. And to win a title, like I almost look at him like Coop in this
Yeah.
scenario. Like,
Yeah.
how can you deal with these other guys that got hurt last year and be able to fend them off? Because he obviously had to fend off Coonan, but like it's almost like how Chase had to, or he had to defend off Chase. It's kind of similar to how the U.S. is. It's very interesting because I think Fed like I look at him this like very similar to Cooper Webb. Like, I don't think he's very I don't think you go if they're all these guys are 100%. I would never pick Romain Feb to beat Jeffrey Herlings or Tim Geiser or even really Lucas Coonan. To be completely honest with you, it's going to be a major shakeup, and I'm interested to see how he deals with everything. I think if those guys start off slow and he's hot right away, it's going to be much easier for him to defend. Like if he's able to have the red plate going into that like 5 week break, I think that's going to be major for him to kind of keep his title hopes alive. But like Tim and Jeffrey are like super injury prone too. Like it's very tough to say
Yeah.
like how if the biggest thing I think for those guys too is like staying healthy and because I think they have the speed to win. Like it's not really that question of can they win, it's can they stay healthy really.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the key for most guys. I feel like the GP season's so freaking long. It's like 7 months it feels like of like just motocross and like that's not easy and you're going so fast all the time. It's like it's never easy to stay healthy. But yeah, no, I look at the 450 class and you could really throw anybody's name in that hat. I even really do want to say Tom because I do obviously I'm friends with Tom and he talked to me a little bit about stuff and he's feeling really comfy on that Honda. And I know they're on like the 27 version, I believe. And he says it's really really good. So I mean, you look at like even like Ruben Fernandez, who's been on that bike forever. He could be somebody that could be quick early on in the season as well. Like, he's won a couple times I think, but like he could be somebody that could play a little bit spoilers early on in the season while these guys are still figuring out some stuff. So I think for Ruben, I think Ruben and Lucas both need to get off to like really hot starts. Like I think if Lucas can, like one of those two guys can have the red plate, it really does kind of amplify their chances to win the title completely. But if like Herlings and Gajser are healthy throughout the first 5 rounds and are inside the top seven, and can get a podium here or there and even a win. It definitely is scary. I think it makes that title very, very interesting. It could be a 5 to 6 man race, come the end of the year if guys are, staying healthy. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm not like super knowledgeable on like the other guys, like the guys that aren't like so fast but can also play spoiler, like other than like the title contenders. But I'm interested to see how everybody does. I think the 250 class too, it's kind of wide open, minus like Simon. I think Simon is definitely like has to win. I think it's like never been more like you if you don't win this like what the like WTF kind of like with how inconsistent Sasha Kunin is and how inconsistent Liam Everts is like it's very like those are the two guys I think that could beat him no problem. But those guys are just so inconsistent like they're always going down, they're always making dumb mistakes and like I even look at a guy like McClellan and like Perez, like those guys I think could come in and kind of surprise a little bit of people because they've been on the same program and they've been, I think, building and they've been kind of behind the eight ball with that Triumph. But now it seems like that Triumph is like getting to a point where it's pretty damn good. But yeah, no, I'm interested to see how it goes. I think Benetton will be good too. I think he's somebody that will be fast. I don't think he'll be as good right away, but I think he could build into some good results. So I'm it's all about Simon in the 250 class really of being able to defend, I think. And then for the other guys, I think they have the speed to be fast. It's just putting it all together throughout the course of what is it, 20 races or something like that.
19 now. One got
19.
cancelled. Not cancelled, but it was like TBA.
Yeah.
GPs
So
did.
over 19 races. So it's like you have to be good over 19 rounds. And that's a lot of motocross, a lot of different motos. Like that's the thing too about moto. It's 2 point paying motos along with quality races. So it's a lot of different championship aspects that could swing one way or another. So it'll be interesting to see.
Sasha Kunin, as you mentioned, definitely the favorite on paper to challenge Langenfelder, but this guy's the definition of checkers or wreckers. He either wins or he wads himself, it seems like. So he's got to keep it on too if he wants to fight for the championship. But now I'm going to try to run down all of the major silly season changes, and there were a bajillion, it seems like. So bear with me here. This might take a minute. But we're going to start with Kawasaki because everything's the same there. Both classes. Roman Fevra, of course, the MXGP World Champion, is back. Paul Jonas, his teammate, is back with Kawasaki. Mathis Villan back for his second professional season in the MX2 class. I think he's another guy that could be stepping up this year and a dark horse to potentially steal some podiums and get up in that fight. I think he showed some promise last year. Of course, the KTM things, very similar. Both Coonan brothers back at the DeCarly side of things. Then the factory team, Langenfelder moves over in that MX2 slot because Andrea Adamo has moved to the MXGP class, the premier class. Of course, Adamo was the 2023 MX2 world champion. He fills the seat vacated by Jeffrey Herlings. Of course, we mentioned Jeffrey Herlings is now at Honda, filling the seat vacated by Tim Gajser. As Jack mentioned, Tom Vial is returning home to the MXGP series. This will be his first year in the Premier class. Of course, a two-time MX2 world champion, two-time 250 East Supercross champion here in the States. Tom on a Honda. Ruben Fernandez stays, so a three-man 450 effort for Honda this year. They also have only one MX2 rider this year. They had two fellas on that squad last year. Valerio Lotta stays with the team, the Italian, but Ferruccio Zanchi, who was with the team last year, he has moved over to the Ducati side of things, which is really interesting because for some reason I don't see him on the entry list right now.
He injured himself. It's the
Okay.
EMX 250 guys riding
Yes,
Mancini.
I was going to say, I see this Mancini fella on here, but okay, I didn't even know. But Zanke is on the Ducati this year. Unfortunate for him that he is injured and out. I was unaware of that. But Honda, four-man program, albeit a bit different. Tim Gajser, of course, moving over to Yamaha. A lot of changes for Yamaha. They have been struggling the last couple years.
Yes.
Ever since the Wilvo team moved away, it seems like, and we'll get to team structures as well. But you have Geiser coming over, Maxime Renault stays. They had three 450 riders last year. Renault's the only one that is back. You have Calvin Vlanderen moving over to Ducati. You have Jago Geerts moving over to the MRT Racing Beta team. Joining Geerts is one of the factory Yamaha MX2 guys from a year ago, Rick Elzinga. Geerts and Elzinga replace Ben Watson and Tom Cock. I know Watson will be running the European MXGP rounds and also the British Championship for the Dirt Store Triumph team. Not sure what Tom Cock is doing, but I know that he lost his beta seat. Talking about Ducati, the Wilvo team run by Louis Vosters, if you don't know, the team changes are more structurally, and they do have team changes that are running different organizations. We're used to here in the US, one team running the factory program always, like Kawasaki. You look at the 450 program has always been that Kawasaki team, the same one. 250 team has been Mitch Payton's Pro Circuit team forever. Over in MXGP, things have changed frequently in the last few years. Wilvo was running the factory Yamaha team in the MXGP class at the early part of the decade. The last couple years, they went over, they ran Fantic. Now, they are taking over the Ducati program from Team Matty. Calvin Vlanderen raced with that team when they were on Yamaha, and of course last year when it was the Kamiya team running Yamaha. Now Vlanderen goes over to Ducati. Jeremy Seawer, who had lots of success with the Wilvo Yamaha team earlier in his career, he stays at Ducati. He, of course, was there for the brand's first season last year. Plus, they add Italian, and of course, it's Ducati. You got to have an Italian over there. Andrea Bonacorsi from Fantic, who was working with Wilvo at Fantic and now moves over to Ducati. A lot of changes. I know this is probably very confusing to some people who might not keep up with the series. The second rider from Ducati last year, Mattia Guadagnini, moves over to the Van Vinroy KTM team, a bit more of a privateer, maybe satellite organization, you could say there. Of course, that team used to run Yamahas, and Calvin Vlanderen had a lot of success there for the Van Vinroy crew. In terms of other team changes, you have Fantic with new organization standards. Of course, like I mentioned, Wilvo moves over to Ducati, which vacates Fantic. JM Racing, which had a Honda team, they had one fella in each class. They had Brent Van Donik in the 450 division and David Braceras in MX2 last year. Now they have a two-man Fantic 450 lineup. Van Donik stays with the team to be one of the guys, and then Alberto Ferrato, who was for a few years one of the best privateers in the 450 class. He's unfortunately been hurt a lot these last couple years, but Ferrato takes the second seat at Fantic. In terms of the three riders that were at Fantic last year, only one of them is currently racing. As I mentioned, Bonacorsi goes over to Ducati. Glenn Coldenhoff finishes third at the championship and does not receive a contract, which is still insane to me. He is going to be going off to Brazil and racing some. He's going to do some Dutch nationals. Selfishly, I was really hoping to see Coldenhoff here in America. I would have loved to see what he could do on the outdoors, maybe on a Suzuki. That would be, I think, the ideal landing spot for him. And then Brian Bogers, who was the third member of the team, called it a career, hung up the boots, retired after 2025. So Bogers is out of the picture. So many changes. Go over to Yamaha, their MX2 program. I mentioned that El Zinga is moving up to the MXGP class, but switching to beta. Another one of their MX2 riders from a year ago, Thibaut Benestant, is moving up to the GP class. He is now competing for the Team Honda SR Moto Blues team. He fills the seat that Ferrado vacated. Kevin Horgmo returns to that Team Honda SR team. Horgmo's been one of the best privateers the last couple seasons. He's put in some really solid top 10 runs. Husqvarna is the same rider wise, although Kai de Wolf, as we mentioned, moving up to the MXGP class, the 2024 MX2 World Champion, instead of two 250 machines for the factory Husky program, they will have de Wolf in the GP class. And then Liam Everts staying in the MX2 class. Triumph also stays the same in the MX2 class with Camden McClellan, Guillaume Ferez, both back. McClellan's third year with the team, Ferez's second. So a little bit of stability there as well. There's a lot of team changes this year, as you can tell. Some others briefly. Isaac Gifting's back with JK Racing Yamaha. Jan Panzer back in the 450 division with his own effort team, JP253 Racing. Van Vinroy KTM also has a new MX2 rider. Noel Zanox moves up from EMX 250. And if you don't know, that is the equivalent, I would say, of SMX Next to the MXGP series. And speaking of EMX 250, Giannis Rezulis, the defending champion, moves into one of the Yamaha seats. It is both Rezulis brothers now for Yamaha. Carlos returns for his second full season, third season total, and then Giannis moves up for his rookie season. Kaz Valk was at Van Vinroy KTM last year. He moves over to the TM Factory Racing CRD Motorsport program. Of course, personally speaking, I am a big fan of TM Racing, always picking TM in my MXGP video game playthroughs. Kai Karsmakers is back for Dixon Racing Team Kawasaki in the MX2 class. We also have, I see David Berceris on the entry list. He is on his own, it seems, this year with a Triumph on the entry list. Julius Mikula, who was in that TM seat last year, is back with the Oshika MX Racing Team organization. And then Team Maddie, who I mentioned was supposed to be running or was running the Ducati program. They were supposed to have Marc-Antoine Rossi, who came up a couple years ago as a big KTM prospect, but Rossi had a ton of injuries the last couple years. He's stepping away from racing. It looks like Maxime Grau is replacing him on the Team Maddie Honda. That's a lot to get through, and I think there was still one I'm missing. I just had one on my brain that I didn't mention, but that is a lot of changes of scenery in the season. Oriol Oliveira, that's who I was going to get to. He's up to the premier class this year for the Gabriel SS24 KTM team. He was MX2 the last few years. That's a lot of changes. I think I might have got them all. At least I got the big ones. I think one of the biggest talking points as well before we move on to predictions for the weekend and championship predictions for MXGP, the rookie class in the MXGP class is insanely stacked. I think this is perhaps the best rookie class I've seen in a long time, maybe ever in that series. I mean, it's hard to think about even in America. Sometimes the rookie classes, like I think of Kenny and Eli coming up at the same time, and then even the next year when you had Anderson, Baggett, Wilson, you had a bunch of different guys who were 250 champions and had so much success in the past. But you look at the rookies, of course, you have Kai de Wolf, Tom Vial, Andrea Adamo, all former MX2 world champions. Plus, you have Thibaut Benestant and Rick Elzinga. This is one of the most talented rookie groups ever. And we see some of these riders like Herlings, like Gajser realistically, Fevre even. These guys are starting to run out of runway, you could say, on their careers. These guys are starting to approach the end of their career. They're closer to the end than the beginning for sure. And now seeing a new crop come up. For me personally, I think Kai de Wolf on paper would be the best of these rookies, just from looking at his previous results. But as Jack said, Tom Vial's feeling good. We know Tom Vial's very consistent, very solid outdoors. I think he's going to be a player as well, definitely a podium threat pretty regularly this season. It's a very talented rookie group, and Ed, I'll send it over to you. We already have so much veteran talent in the class with Herlings, Gajser, Fevre, Kunin, and the rest. Now we have a crop of new riders, a bit of a new wave to deepen the talent pool. And this is a crazy stacked factory lineup for MXGP this year, perhaps the most stacked that I've seen personally since I started watching MXGP back in 2015.
Yeah, I think we could talk in detail about nearly every rider that you just covered then and sort of do an episode each. But in a summary for the rookies, I agree with Jack, to be honest. I think Tom is out of the rookies, I can't really put it into words. I think he's the most complete in terms of he's got the perfect mix of the raw speed where he can sort of run away or close a gap if needs be, as well as that consistency. He's kind of got a good balance. You look at the amount of GP wins he's got, I believe it's 24. I mean, Kai's got 14. That's a significant amount, but that's still 10 less than Tom, you know? And a little bit on Kai, it's pre any sort of surrounding any injuries, I would have maybe said he was going to be the biggest flash in the pan, do something amazing at a sand track, and then the hard pack maybe struggle a little bit more. But it's rumored he's have had a surgery on his hand or thumb, so bit tentative and really to see how he gets. But once we get to the deep sands, the Sardinias, the Lommels, like Kai's so good. He's the next Jeffrey sort of in sand, similar to Lucas. They're just ridiculous, different world. And Andrea, I think I did an interview of Andrea back when he it was announced he was moving up to the 450s, and he agreed with me that I think this is going to work into his favour. He kind of goes under the radar a little bit. I think because he won a title with like a small amount of wins, similar to Prado's first 450 title, it's like you almost have to go and back that up again. And his title defending year was dreadful. And then 2025, in my opinion, was a better year than even his title year. He kind of ticked all the boxes and showed to everyone that he's got the speed to run away over a weekend. He can piece together a championship, and it kind of just went full circle for him. But I think he's the best one to look out for at the minute to begin with, and then over across the season, Tom's going to have the sort of the more complete season. But if you look at the preseason results, I think Tom lost to Maxime Despres over the weekend, so maybe Maxime Despres might have to come back out and show the boys what they've got. But the reason I brought up preseason is Andrea has been like Mike Alessi starting. I mean, he's had a little bit of like crashes and bike problems and that, so he hasn't had any like good results, but his starts have been insane. So I think
He's got two of the digits on there.
yeah,
He's 80s, not 800, so close, man.
yeah. Exactly. He's like the Italian Michael Essi, and he's probably one of the best interviews you can get in the GPs because he's really methodical on how he thinks. And I've probably learned more about motocross from him making me feel like a bit stupid sometimes with some things I've asked him. But no, it's really exciting. I think Tom's the most complete. He's a little bit older than the guys as well. Obviously, going over to America sort of avoided the age ruling out, but. No, it's just crazy. Like I just want to talk about every one of them, like in heavy detail, to be honest.
Jack, obviously you mentioned Tom, you think is going to be performing well. Kaida Wolf, Adamo, even Benestant and Elzinga. What do you think about this MXGP class getting a little bit of revitalization, some new life injected into the class? Of course, we saw Lucas Coonan last year, but it was more of an isolated thing where he was really the only guy that moved up. Now we have an entire wave of new rookies to fight in the class.
Yeah, I almost feel like you can kind of put Coonan in that little like this class almost because he moved up early, right? I mean, like I think
Yeah.
Coonan still is developing a lot as a rider. But then to touch on like the other guys, like I think like Edward said, like Tom, I think is going to be the most consistent guy in out of the rookie class. He might not be the fastest right away. Like I think like some other guys at like certain tracks will be really really good. Like he said, like the Wolf at like a sand track. I mean, I'm sure the Wolf will be a no doubt podium at a track like Lommel. So it'll be interesting to see like how it all develops. I think like Tom with like the off season races and stuff like that. It's funny that Edward said that. Like I don't know if he saw, but he stalled his bike on the start in the second moto.
Well, I didn't see that, but that kind of answers my confusion on Sunday, thinking, what? How did he lose to Despre? No
Bro,
disrespect, but
it's so funny, dude. I called him actually today. I was like just seeing how he's doing, and I was like, dude, did you like do it on purpose? Like just like learn how to go through it, like to go through a path or something? He's like, nah, dude, my bike stalled. I'm like, that's pretty funny. So, um, yeah, no, it was obviously the race doesn't matter, but I think like obviously like I think Tom is going to be good. I think Tom has like from what I've heard from him that he loves the bike, like him and like he's not really having any troubles with the motorcycle. Um, and I think it's hard to not like that Honda. I mean, you see how well the Lawrences make it work over here. I think they have much more R&D in the GPs with how you have three different styles of riders between Jeffrey, Tom, and Ruben. I think that bike is going to be working really well for those guys. And that team itself, I think, is just so. um well like shaped. I think everybody around that team is like willing to like make everything work. So I think that's like another big positive for like a guy like Tom, who I think they know Herlings is good. They're going to obviously work with Herlings, but they also have the resources to work with Tom to make him be the best. Because I think that's kind of like the future they see with Tom is maybe not this year, but the next 2 years. I think for sure he wants to be a title favorite, and I think he could like I think he can be without a doubt. So I think Tom is in my opinion, which is having the championship style of racing and having raced pretty much every style and every person you could imagine now at this point in his career at 25 years old. Like it's pretty darn impressive. Um, and just like the mentality of Tom, I think is so unwavering. Like he's so mentally strong in like a championship battle. I think he'll be in like even like a race scenario. Like he takes his medicine when he has to. He doesn't push the limit when he doesn't have it. I think that's gonna like course the testament of how good of a rider he is, and it'll show I think throughout the season. But yeah, like you said, like Adamo and DeWolf, and who else moved up? Benestant moved up, right?
Benistant and Elzinga, yeah.
Yeah, like those Benestant and Bilzing, I think like they're not gonna blow anybody's doors off. Like, I don't think they're gonna be like crazy, but I think they could mix it up a little bit. But I really am too just happy to see everybody healthy. I think that's the main thing. I think with this whole class is there's so many good guys and like the Guadagninis and like the random guys in the back of the pack that can kind of show up on a random track. Like it's so different over in Europe than it is in America, where these guys, like it's almost like J Mart at Millville. Like it's like how DeWolf could be at Lommel, right? Like it's like what the this guy just showed up and is gnarly all of a sudden. Um, you don't really have that in America where like nobody's like guys are good at certain tracks, but it's like you kind of still see the best guys be the best. And like at certain tracks in Europe, it seems like those guys show up a little bit better than their typical form. So I'm interested to see how everybody shakes up. I'm interested to see how Adamo does too. I think he's like a smaller dude, so the 450 could be a little bit much for him. I think it could be hard for him to push that limit until he, builds a little bit more strength and gets more used to the motorcycle. But for his riding style, I think it fits him well. Because he's a smoother rider. He's not like very like all over the bike and stuff like that. Where a guy like DeWolf seems to be pretty let it hang, but he is a bigger guy. So yeah, no, I'm interested to see how the rookie class does. I think it'll be they definitely will shake some things up in the championship scheme of things, but I don't think any of them will win the title. But if one had to, I think it'd be Tom.
Now moving briefly into MXGP championship predictions.
God, this is hard.
I want to go ahead. My MXGP world champion, and Ed mentioned him as perhaps the favorite for the series with all of the changes. I think if he keeps it on two after learning last year, being in the fight but not quite walking away with it, I think this could be Lucas Coonen's time to shine. I think Lucas is my pick to win the MXGP World Championship. Once again, there are so many guys it could be, but the speed last year was legit. He's learned now how to fight in the championship. It was rookie of the year. I don't think anybody necessarily expected him to fight for the championship his rookie year. Still, if he wins, I'm sure, but for him to be up there and have that experience fighting with Fevra, I think was huge for him. And now this year he can go into it, take some of those mistakes, learn from them in year two. I have Lucas Koenig winning the MXGP championship. MX2, I'm going to go with Langenfelder. I'm like we talked about, there are really three guys in the class that have won ever. And Sasha Kunin, I think, is the best rider in terms of pure talent and pure speed. But like I mentioned earlier in the show, he tends to crash himself a lot. So I can't pick a guy that is that crash prone. I think Lucas does crash some, but he's nowhere near like Sasha. It seems like every other race he's flying, whether he's riding into banners or just flipping off his motorcycle and landing on his feet. I mean, this guy, he's reckless, that's for sure. Maybe he should have been a freestyle guy. Maybe he should have been a Nitro Circus. But Lucas Kunin and Langenfelder are my championship predictions. Jack, it's hard to pick, but who do you have winning the championships in each class this year?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to bet against Lucas. I think too. I think like the pressure's kind of off him a little bit, like with having like guys like Herlings and Gajser in the championship, and even some of the other guys too. I think with it being like a healthy field, and if it maintains to be healthy, I think like as long as he's still in it and like he's strong towards the end of the year, I think he's somebody that's hard to beat. Um, although I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to win a lot of races, but I don't think it'll be as easy for him as it was last year just because it was such a two-man race. It's pretty hard to get outside the top three, it seemed like last year, no matter where he started. I think it'll be a lot tougher if these guys can stay healthy. That's just, I think, the name of the game. And I think if Jeffrey Herling stays healthy, and I think he will with and be on this bike, I think he's going to get one more, and I think he's probably going to call it a career after that. If I was him, I would do that. I think he's going to get one more on this Honda. I think the Honda suits his style well. I think it'll be like similar to how we see Tomac this year on the KTM. He'll be like that. I think it'll be a Jeffrey Herling show. Especially once we get like towards the middle of the year, we're back in Europe a lot, and we start seeing some more sand tracks. So I think it'll be good for Herlings, and I think Herlings will win it. And then for the 250 class, sorry, didn't touch on that. It's hard to bet against Langenfelder because I think he's the most consistent guy, and I think like if Liam and Sasha do what they do and they ride like maniacs and throw their races away, it's going to be tough. But I do think that Liam is my title favorite. I think he's faster than Langenfelder, like pure speed. And I think that Sasha isn't going to be much change, but I feel like a guy like Liam, he's a sole focus on that 250 program. Like I think it's going to be good for him to kind of be out of the shadow of the Wolf, and I think it'll prove to be good for him. So I think we'll see Liam Everts win the 250 title.
Ed, your podium, or not podium, we'll get to podiums in a minute. Championship predictions for MXGP and MX2 this year. Who have you got becoming world champion?
Well, that's like the impossible question. In the MXGP class, I think something that's going to be interesting to see is how what's the difference between Lucas at round one this year to last year, because it's really downplayed that how injured he was and how he probably shouldn't have been racing. And it's a testament to how confident the family are and the whole team that they know his ability and they do think and thought he was capable of winning the title from the get-go. So heading into this fully fit, fully healthy, I'm assuming, is it's a bit worrying for everyone else. Like we touched on the beginning with the changes around, but I agree with Jack as well. I could see Jeffrey putting on a sort of an ET3 in Europe, completely new look, completely new bike, and sort of still just showing us the generational talent that they are. And just you leave a race thinking, how what Jeffrey Owens is still winning? It's all this other talent, but one that's maybe flying under the radar, and I don't think between us we've really spoke about him much is Tim Gajser, and that's a little bit of a mix in with the Yamaha program struggling in the recent years. But I'm gonna be a bit biased. Timmy's a cult boy. He's a CultMoto man, so I'm gonna back Timmy for the win on the Yamaha, get them a world championship back under the awning, and in the 250 class. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit because everyone I spoke to from sort of the beginning of this year to now, I've been on the Sasha Coonan hype train. I'm a shorter man myself, so I like the shorter riders. I support them. I'm a big advocate for them. And he podiumed 10 rounds last year. So half of the rounds he was on the podium, but it's just when he doesn't podium, he's DNF'd. Like he's in the medical unit.
Yard
Like
sale.
it's yeah, it's the hard sell. But he somehow never gets injured. Like I don't think he missed around last year, but he covered a lot of ground, tumbling along the floor. But I'm gonna go that he's learnt a lot. I think these boys want to get out of Europe sooner rather than later as well, and I believe a lot of that lies on how well they perform this year, and some of that can be all in their control of their results. So I'm gonna go with Sasha to win the MX2, and we're gonna go with CultMoto bias Tim Geyser for the 450s because again I could flip a coin and change that really easily.
Look at that. All of us with different champions. There we go. That's what we like to see on the Stire Sound. A little bit of difference. Now we're going to start to move into our last segment of the program. Of course, we're going to have predictions. And now I'm going to, as I've been doing the last couple weeks, why not do the MXGP World Championship here and the Supercross entry list as well? So now I'm going to share said screen. Here is the preliminary entry list, not official, for this weekend in Indy. No real changes. As Jack mentioned, Drew Adams probably going to be out this weekend, unfortunately, with a thumb injury. There's only really one name in the 250 class that I saw that was interesting to be a new rider, and it's down here. Liam Aloff, it looks like, is going to make his professional debut for the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki team. Of course, Liam was supposed to start the season for them, but he injured himself at the end of the Partzilla Arena Cross Series. I think it was a thumb or wrist issue. It's fairly minor, but it kept him off the bike for a little bit. 450 class. Jack, do we know if we see Chase Sexton this week? I would lean toward no.
Yeah, no, he's not racing. I talked to him on Sunday, and he's still not on the bike. So I would guess a Birmingham return, but it could be longer. I really don't know, but I doubt we see him this weekend. To be completely honest with you,
I did not
I'm
figure either.
80% doubt. 80% he doesn't race. 20% he does. I think.
Prado as well could be another week out for him with that separated shoulder. I think it would be wiser to keep him out another week, make sure he's fully healthy, ready to go for Birmingham. Looking through here, not too many surprises in the 450 class. MXGP, we have entry list for Argentina. I was surprised with the amount of 450 guys on here. 37 guys listed in the Premier GP class. Look at these. Lucas Coonan wearing 5 is going to take some time to get used to. He went from Hunter Lawrence to Ryan Dungey, so that'll be weird to see. But Benestant, Flandern, Vial, Horgmo, Van Donnick, Jonas, Fernandez, De Wolf, Adamo, Oliver, Herlings. We, of course, have a lot of Argentinian natives in there. Kevin Bruman is back. I didn't mention him, but one of the privateers of the MXGP class, Seaward Geert Squadronini. Lars Van Berkel on a Fantic. It seems like Lars ends up running Argentina every year. Nico Rolando in there from Uruguay. A lot of Carlos Badiali from Venezuela. I know that name from Enzo Lopes. That's a name that I did not catch. Enzo running MXGP this weekend. Interesting. Joaquin Poli, Argentinian Motocross Nations legend. Of course, Gajser Panzer Ferrato. Marco Antizana from Bolivia, FIM Latin American regular, and Maxime Renault. A lot of top factory guys, and then maybe the end of the points battle might be fun. But Enzo Lopes, I did not catch that earlier when I was looking. Pretty cool to see Enzo on the list. Then in the MX2 class, 30, not bad. Usually a smaller class, but of course you have Langenfelder, McClellan, lots of Argentinians here as well. A lot of Kuhn and Mikula Braceras, Everts, Cars Makers, Regulus, Jens Walvort's back, Maxim Grau, Mancini, Ferrez, Alfonso Bracci, another Uruguay native, Casvalk, Valan, Felipe Quirno Costa, Ben Garib from Chile Racing, Scott Smolders, Noel Zanox, Giannis Regulus. There you have the list of MX2 competitors this weekend in Argentina. If you're here in America, you can catch the second motos on CBS Sports Network at some point on Sunday. If you don't buy the MXGP TV pass, if you buy the MXGP TV pass, you can see everything, including the qualifying races. Now to our handy dandy spreadsheet. Daytona, Jack gained 5 more points on me. I did give Jack a bone a little bit. He picked Chase Sexton for third, but I'm like, you know what? Chase is out. I'm going to give him somebody that's racing. So I moved Hunter Lawrence onto his podium and helped him out a little bit. I thought it was a little unfair to leave Chase on his podium since we heard the news, what was that, Wednesday or Thursday, that he was going to be out. But we both had Tomac winning. I had Hunter Lawrence in second. 250 class. Nate Thrasher picked it not pay off. I got to stop swinging because I went Jalik Swole Nate Thrasher the last 2 weeks, and that clearly did not work. Also, perhaps our best random spot prediction ever. We both had D and Q's for 20th place in the 250 main event. My guy didn't even make the night show. Luke Neese lost his fast lap because he failed sound and didn't even make the night show, and I had him in 20th. Of course, I had Tristan Lane, he was right there. Jack had Hardog. Harlan's edging for the outdoor season. Now podium predictions. I got another column here. Of course, Ed's not going to be competing with us in the season standings, but hey, he could have around bragging rights at least. Indianapolis, 18th place for the random spot. Generator not being kind to us once again, but there's 17 rounds. I'm trying for 17 different spots in those weeks. Let's get into Indy predictions. I want to go ahead and rifle off mine. 450 class, Indianapolis. It's a triple crown. Could be Cooper Webb. I'm not going to pick against Cooper Webb in the Triple Crown. He's clinging on to those things. Back against the wall. We said his back against was against the wall heading into Houston, and he ends up pulling off the win. Same thing here. He's 20 points down. He's getting close to that danger zone of falling out of the title race. Cooper Webb, I think, gets the job done this weekend. I'm going to go Ken Roczen for second, a guy who's always good at Indianapolis, has won there in the past several times. Kenny's great at these Triple Crowns. Apart from his one bad moto, he could have easily won Houston. I have Kenny second. I'm going to put Hunter third. I think Hunter and Eli go 3-4 this week, actually. I don't think they're going to be in the fight necessarily for the overall. I think Triple Crown shenanigans are going to happen. Whether Hunter has a tip over one moto, Eli has a bad start and a tip over one moto. I think that Webb and Roxon might have that chance to get back in the fight. Then 250 class, I don't even know. I'm just going to pick Cole Davies because he's the fastest guy. Cole Davies was solid. He was on the podium last year in Indianapolis during the showdown round. As Ed mentioned earlier in the show, Davies was really solid. I believe it was Glendale Triple Crown last year. Cole's been the fastest guy. If he can dial in the starts, he's going to be really dangerous. I'm going to go pretty conservative for the rest of my podium. I'm going to go Joe Shimoda P2. Part of me really wants to go Nate Thrasher for the podium because he's bound to be up on the podium. He's bound to win at some point. But I want to go Seth Hammaker. I'm going to go really conservative with my podium picks. Then 18th place. Fun place to pick. I'm going to go, let's see, Kevin Moran's 450 class. I think Kevin's back in the show this weekend. I think that's a reasonable pick. 250 class, once again, there's so many guys in that range it could be. I'm going to go with he finally got back in the main event at Daytona after some injuries have marred his past couple years. Evan Ferry for 18th on the Phoenix Racing Honda. I think Lil Red's going to be a little bit better this week, getting his first Triple Crown. That's my Indy predictions. We'll do our Argentina predictions in a minute, but I have Webb, Roxon, Lawrence, 450 podium, Davies, Shimoda, Hammaker, 250 podium. Then I have for my random spot of the week. We're not doing random spot for MXGP, by the way, just strictly podiums there. But I have Kevin Moran's and Evan Ferry. Jack, over to you now. You still got a pretty comfortable lead over here. Got a nice little gap, 45 points. But hey, what if I nail all these this week? Things could change. Granted, I haven't nailed all of these ever, but you're in the catbird seat. What do you got for Indy?
I think Ken Roczen wins. I think Kenny's so good in the early race, like early part of the races. I think it's going to show, and I think he's comfortable at a track like Indy. So I'm going to go K Rock to win. I think that'll be another good cap to his somewhat or his pretty good season, I'd say. Um, Second place is a little bit tougher. I'm going to go Eli Tomac. Well, just because I don't think Hunter Lawrence is going to be as good and like be as effective at a race like Indy, I do think he'll get up there. Like he'll probably do be on the podium for most of these motos, but I do think Eli Tomac's going to be solid. But I do think him and Hunter and Webb are going to have a rough moto here or in one of these races, which is why I'm putting Tomac on the podium. I think his rough race will be a fifth. But then for my third place spot, I'm gonna pick Joey Savacci. I think Joey Savacci's bound for a podium. I think that man
Dripping.
is due for one. I think this Triple Crown format's gonna suit his style. If I'm racing the World Supercross stuff, I think he's gonna be comfortable here. I mean the guy's been unreal the last couple weekends, and I think it's finally gonna be time. I think he's gonna be itching to be up there. I think he's gonna be. It's going to be tough. I think I'm not like sold on him getting third, but I do think he's going to be right there, and I hope he ends up squeezing one out, and I think it's going to take some luck from like these other guys having a rough race, which I think could happen, like we've seen before. But yeah, I think we're going to see Joey Savacci in third. I think he's going to have three solid motos. I think we'll be in the. He might pull like a Cody Shock where he goes like 2.66 and somehow manages himself in third, but I think it'll be good. I think he's going to be on the podium for at least one of these motos. I hope at least. I mean, I think so. As long as he can get a good start, I think it'll be a good spot. And then for the 250 class, it's tough to pick this. I'm going to go Seth Hammaker. I believe Seth won there last year.
He did.
Um, and I think that's another testament to how good he's been riding. I think if he can have a good qualifier and have a good gate picks, like I think it'll be pretty. He's been starting well. It'll be good. I think Davies will be good too. I think Davies will probably get second. That's going to be my second place pick. And I'm going to go Pierce Brown for third. I just think Seth's gonna cement his name on this title right now and get the red plate and start running away with this thing. I think that could definitely happen if Shimoda doesn't get a win here soon. So Yeah, that's my pick. And then for 18th is the random spot.
Yeah.
It's so hard because it's like so weird because like some of these guys like at the bottom of the A group might not make it because of the Indy dirt. So 450 class a little bit easier. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go. I don't even know who to go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Grant Harlan again. I think Grant Harlan will make the main. I think he's not gonna have a great race, but I think he's gonna get 18th. 250 class is tough. 250 class is tough. I really want to pick one of our guys because I think they can do it, but I don't know. I did last week and it didn't work out very well. Um, I'm gonna go Luke Neese. I think Luke Neese will probably be in B group, and I think he's gonna make the main, but I don't think he's gonna have a great showing. So yeah, that's my pick for 18th. And then are we doing no GPs
We will be
next? Or?
doing GPs, but Ed's on here. I'll have him do the podium predictions with us. Like I said, he's not in the season-long fight, but he can at least come in here, maybe have a great round, have some bragging rights on us. Ed, Indianapolis podium predictions plus our random spots there. What you got?
Well, I thought I was going to be a little bit audacious because I'm not in a title fight. I'm more of a wild card. But my audacious suggestion was going to be Joey Savacci on the podium. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to go outside of that. I said at the beginning, Cooper Webb and Kenny are kind of running out of time after this weekend. If they don't beat Hunter and they don't beat Eli, I think it's writing on the wall. So I'm going to pick Cooper Webb to win because he's literally built a career on that. He's built a career on just picking results and doing it when his back's against the wall. Second place, Mr. Second Place himself with the red plate, Hunter Lawrence. I think that's kind of where he's found himself. Ironically, in his 450 career, he tends to be second no matter who's racing. But I think he could get a maybe a main event win because I'm not really, or triple crown win because I'm not too confident that Webb's gonna string across a perfect night, but it will, in my opinion, will fall to the way of the Yamaha man, and he will leave there with the maximum points. And third place, I'm gonna go with Eli. I think a tendency for Kenny's career is to sort of it's just piecing together a full championship, and a lot of it's not really his fault. It's just shit happens to him, and yeah, I just think I think he's gonna have an amazing race, and then something will happen, a start crash or some problem with a lapper, something typical Ken Roxon, which is out of his control, and yeah, so I think he's gonna be off the box. So for the 450s, go Webb, Eli, like Webb, Hunter, Eli, and the 250s. This is really hard. Hole to win. I think he could sweep all three races, to be honest, if he gets the start. Second place. Oh, this is really hard, boys. Um, I'm gonna go with Pierce Brown. Kind of contradicts me thinking he's gonna peter off a little bit, but he starts really good, shorter races. Track will be a bit slower of how it's gonna sort of shape up. And then third place, we go with Joe. I didn't want to copy you boys too much. And then 18th place. Oh, this is tough in the
It's so bad,
450s.
so
Yeah, this is
bad.
just ridiculous. What a segment. No, I'm joking. 18, I'm going to go with Mitchell Harrison because he's only
Funny
finished twice
Mitch.
better than that. Because as you've been talking about, I'm like going through the results. Mitchell Harrison's gonna bump up from 20th to 18th for this weekend. And then the 250s, this screams privateer heaven, really. Someone to mix it in there. I'm gonna go Marcus Phelps to support Jack. I'm gonna reckon he's gonna make it through. Big up, Mark. Yeah, Marcus Phelps gonna get 18th. He's gonna qualify.
Appreciate that.
There we go. Now over to Argentina. As I mentioned, no random picks for
Thank God.
MX2 because I mean, doing the random spots, I don't think if it was a top 10 spot, it would be necessarily hard, but I feel like MX2, that class, there might only be like 15 or 16 full-time guys. So doing an 18th place would be very hard. So we'll just stick to podium predictions all year for MXGP. I'll start things off again. Man, it's hard. I got my 250 podium pretty well mapped out. I think Liam Everts is going to fire the first shot in the season. Liam Everts gets the job done in Argentina. I have Langenfelder second. Pretty standard there so far. Third place, I think this is going to be one of those races. Coonan could go like 219 or something like that. I'm going to go. I originally thought of Camden McClellan for the podium, but I changed my mind. Mathis Villan on the Kawasaki. I have the number 317 starting the year in P3. 450 class, I'm not as sold on, but I am sold on Lucas Kunin winning and making a statement immediately to start the season. Then this is hard to predict, very hard, because we don't know anything to expect. I think we could see Jeffrey Herlings P2. I think he's going to have a really good weekend. I almost didn't want to pick either one of Herlings and Gajser up there because it's a brand new bike, but I'm like, I gotta have at least one of those guys. And in third, Jack's mentioned him. He could be a spoiler this year at different times. I think Ruben Fernandez, he usually starts well. It seems like he's been pretty good at Argentina in the past, is always ripping in the first couple rounds of the year. So I think Ruben Fernandez is going to be that final spot on the podium in the 450 class. Ed, will send it to you now since it's your expertise in the MXGP series. Although 450 class is going to be very hard to predict this year, we got a lot of talent in that class. Who you got for the podiums in Argentina?
Well, we start in the MXGP class. I'm on the all wavelength. I think to open up the season, I think Lucas is going to win. I think it's going to people almost might. I think he's going to do it in such a way, such a convincing way that people might think, "Oh, this isn't going to be as exciting as we once thought." But then everything else is going to unfold after in the rounds to come. Second place, I'm going to put Tim. I again, I particularly don't want to back him or Jeffrey too much on a solid result, but then I'd be kicking myself if Tim just pieced together a 2-3 weekend and gets on the podium because it's Tim Gajser and it's what he does. And then for third place, I'm going to go with Roman. I, I he's one of the most interesting ones for me because I really don't know what we're going to get. Are we going to get a confident Roman? Are we going to get almost a bit of a not hungover Roman, but like a bit of a he's kind of just done it now. But they're the top three for them. And then MX2, Sasha to win. He's gonna piece together a consistent weekend, like him. Second, I'm gonna go with Simon, and then third, I'm gonna go with Valen, like yourself. He's gonna be really, really good this year. I think he's gonna be one of the few riders to get their first wins. And yeah, he's a great guy, great rider.
Jack, now it's your turn. I'm sorry, man, but you can't pick Tom Vial for all three podium slots. I know that's what you want to do.
No, but I think I'm gonna pick Tom to win. I think Tom's gonna be like, from what I've seen, I really do think that Tom could win. I think it's like some shit's gonna happen. I think Tom's just gonna put together like a 3 weekend to overall it.
Somebody get Dupre over there.
I really do think that's gonna happen. I think Tom's gonna get off to a top three start as long as he doesn't stall the bike on the start. I think he's we've seen like in the preseason races he's ripping starts. Like, I think that like he said with Adamo, like I think both those guys are going to be up front early. I think it's going to take those other guys some time to get going. I do think he's not. I don't think he's going to win a moto, but I do think that somehow, some way, he's going to come out with the overall. It could be like a 3-2 or like even like a 4-2, something crazy. Like I don't predict him to win a race necessarily, but the overall with the whole motocross thing is always interesting. So I got him winning the overall. Second place, I do have Lucas Kunin. I think Lucas is gonna win probably the quality race, probably win Moto 1 or 2, and have like a just have like something go wrong. I don't think it's gonna be a picture perfect weekend like Edward Heather says he's gonna do. Third place, is Renault racing.
Yes, he's happy as well. He's
That's
everything's
kind of what
clicking
I've
with
been
him.
hearing. So like I'm thinking Renault. Like I really don't. No, why none of us talked about him. Like I was thinking about like after like we had gotten into like the indie predictions, I'm like, dude, Renault is like low key
Yeah.
wicked fast on like these tracks that nobody's really good at. So I think Renault's gonna get on the podium as well. I think Renault's been on that bike forever, and it seems like he's been finally finding some comfort, which is what he struggled with all last year. Because I think he was somebody who typically I would put in my championship predictions of who could potentially win a title. I think Renault has the speed to do that. Just didn't seem very happy last year. So if he's happy now, I think it's going to be a different showing. Come round one, I think he's going to be healthy and ready to go. I think third isn't too far out of the question. I like Ed said, I don't think it's crazy. It's too crazy for me right now to put like a guy like Herlings and Gajser up there right now. And I think like Feb is going to be kind of in like a hungover state of like it's going to take him a minute to get going. I'm not sold on him being firing right out of the gates. I think he's kind of a build up kind of guy. Just being kind of older and stuff like that, more veteran esque. But yeah, that's my 450 predictions. 250 class, I'm gonna go Liam Everts to win, just like you, Trey. I think Liam is gonna be right there. Um, I think second is gonna be Simon. I think Simon's gonna probably win one of the motos. I think Liam's gonna have go like win the quali race and then win another moto and then hopefully he can stick it in the top three and it'll be enough. And then for third, I'm gonna go Lada from the Honda team. I think like from what I've been hearing, like he's pretty fast and like I really like his style. Like I don't really know
His
much about him.
style's so good. Like
Yeah,
it's like an Italian jet watching him. It's
yeah,
so good.
it's unreal how good his style is, and I just like I think that stuff like I think it's sick. So with how like up and down that 250 class seems to be right now, and how like of a question mark like the podium it like other than like first and second maybe, I think that podium could change every weekend, and I don't think it'd be a surprise to any of us. So I think Lada is going to be somebody to I think with being training with Jeffrey and Tom and Ruben, like I think that it's going to be good for him. I think it's good for the Italian um motocross team too. Like just looking at designation, I think Lada's going to probably cement his name there and be like, "Look, I'm here to ride, and this 250's fast, and his style seems to complement it well." So I'm excited to see how he does, and I think he's going to get third.
Dalmo, a lot of Bonacorsi at the end of the year could be a fun MXDN team if that's indeed what they pick. But there you have it. One last look at our Indy podium predictions here and our 18th place spots. Then over to the MXGP side. We got some differences. I also wrote down our championship predictions, different predictions for everybody, which I really like. And then we got some differences on the podiums as well. Could Ruben Fernandez get up there? Could Maxime Renault get up there? Could Valerio Lada? But that has been episode number 31 of the Stire Sound. A little bit longer this weekend, but we had a lot to cover and to talk about. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed Indianapolis Supercross this weekend. MXGP of Argentina. We will, of course, wrap things up next weekend. Before we go, Ed, a couple of rounds ago, or a couple episodes ago, I should say, we plugged our socials and stuff. Of course, we're newer to this whole streaming camera thing, showing our faces. But Ed, feel free, plug some of your social medias. Where can folks find you at and see some of your MXGP coverage throughout the year?
Thank you, mate. Well, if you want to stay up to date with what's going on, you want to see some cool Insta bangers and some of the boys, what the Cult boys do with their cameras is insane. So go follow CultMoto on Instagram if you want to see what I get up to and see the chronics of a up and coming journalist in the pits. It's Edward_Heather. And then, yeah, we're on all social platforms really. So if you want to stay up to date, we do rider check-ins on Spotify. I've done like 20 of those over the off season. We'll have post race stuff, and the idea is we're gonna have some reviews and previews. So yeah, it's all exciting, and yeah, be sure to stay in touch, boys and girls.
Yeah, we got to get you back on for another episode, dude. Like, it's a fun dynamic. It's good. A little bit of
I
Europe, a
think
little
we
bit of
should
fun.
keep me in the prediction loop for MXGP so I can still maybe win because I'm
All right.
competitive. I want to
Yeah.
go for a title
Start.
hunt.
We should start a new series with that, dude. Just full MXGP predictions and just go points from there.
Yeah, well, I guess we can do SMX, Jack and I, or at least do Supercross, and then the rest of the year, yeah, we can add on some MXGP and some maybe outdoors slash SMX for another one as well. But thank you for joining us once again. We'll definitely have you back on a little bit later in the year for sure. Anything else from either of you two before we conclude today's episode? Any final thoughts, parting shots? Jack, anything?
A lot of racing this week, and I'm excited for it.
I am as well. It's that time of year. All the racing's back going again, pretty much. NASCAR, IndyCar, F1 starting this weekend. Granted, I won't be able to watch it. Thanks for putting that on Apple TV, everybody. Supercross, MXGP, all the engines are firing. We got so much racing going on. It's an awesome time of the year. For Edward Heather, for Jack Noel, I am Trey Stire. This has been episode number 31 of the Stire Sound. We hope you enjoy this weekend's racing, and the Stire Sound is fading out.